Three coins, three stories. One continent that minted history into metal, and one of these coins is secretly worth far more than you'd ever guess. In today's video, we're going to explore three fascinating South African coins: the 2006 5 Rand, the 1991 2 Rand, and the 1993 1 Rand. Each one carries a story, a symbol, and a value that goes far beyond the numbers stamped on their faces. Let's start with the South African 5 Rand 2006 coin. Now, at first glance, you might think, it's just a 5 Rand coin. But hold on, because this little piece of metal is part of one of the most politically charged and historically significant coin redesigns in modern numismatic history. The year 2006 marked a pivotal moment for South Africa. The country was riding the wave of post-apartheid transformation, and the South African Mint wanted their currency to reflect a new national identity: bold, unified, and proudly African. The obverse of this coin features the iconic GNU, the wildebeest, one of Africa's most powerful and recognizable animals, symbolizing strength, resilience, and the wild spirit of the continent. The reverse proudly displays the new South African coat of arms, adopted in 2000, replacing the old apartheid-era symbols with a design rooted in the Zam language of the San people, meaning unity in diversity. The coin is bimetallic, a copper-nickel center surrounded by a brass ring, a design choice that wasn't just aesthetic. It was an anti-counterfeiting masterpiece. Replicating that two-tone structure requires serious industrial precision, making forgeries incredibly difficult. Now here's where it gets interesting for collectors around the world. While a circulated 2006 5 Rand might trade for face value locally, proof and uncirculated versions of this coin have been sold internationally for anywhere between $15 to over $200, depending on condition and mint sets. Within the global numismatic community, a world where millions of dollars exchange hands over rare coins daily, South African coins from the post-apartheid democratic era are rapidly rising in collector demand. Experts have noted that as South Africa's democratic coinage ages, early series democratic coins will only appreciate further. What makes this coin truly special is that it isn't just currency. It's a timestamp of a nation healing itself. Every time this coin was minted, it was a quiet declaration: apartheid is over, and this is who we are now. Here, the 2006 5 Rand is minted in Pretoria at the South African Mint, one of the most respected mints on the African continent, operating since 1892. Over a century of craftsmanship went into the hands that produced this very coin. So next time you come across a South African 5 Rand, don't just spend it, study it. Because you might just be holding a small piece of a nation's rebirth in the palm of your hand. That's the story of the 2006 South African 5 Rand, a coin built from history, politics, and pure African pride. Now let's travel back in time to 1991, a year that, for South Africa, was nothing short of explosive. Meet the South African 1991 2 Rand coin. This coin didn't just carry 2 Rand in value, it carried the weight of an entire era ending. And that's exactly what makes it one of the most historically loaded coins ever produced on African soil. Here's the context that most people completely miss. 1991 was the year the South African government began repealing the apartheid laws. The Population Registration Act was scrapped, the Land Acts were dismantled, and Nelson Mandela had already walked free from Victor Verster prison just 1 year earlier. This coin was minted at the exact crossroads of oppression and freedom. You are literally holding a coin struck during one of the most dramatic political transitions of the 20th century. The design of the 1991 2 Rand features the greater kudu, a majestic spiral-horned antelope, on the reverse. The kudu wasn't chosen randomly. In South African culture, the kudu represents grace under pressure, survival against odds, and quiet dignity. Almost poetic, given what the country was going through in that very year. The obverse carries the last era of the old South African coat of arms, the pre-democratic emblem, making this coin one of the final witnesses to apartheid-era official symbolism on currency. After the democratic transition, these designs were phased out forever. That alone makes the 1991 2 Rand a transitional relic, a coin that existed at the death of one South Africa and the birth of another. Now let's talk metal and money. The coin is composed of nickel-plated copper, a durable circulation-grade composition. But here's what gets collectors excited globally. Pre-democratic South African coins in mint or near-mint condition are becoming increasingly scarce. As time passes and circulated examples wear down, clean, uncirculated specimens are harder to find. In international coin auctions and collector markets, where rare coins routinely fetch tens of thousands to millions of dollars, South African transitional-era coins are being recognized as seriously undervalued hidden gems. Seasoned numismatists have pointed out that coins minted in politically transitional years historically carry a premium that only grows over decades. Think about it. East German coins from 1989, Soviet coins from 1991, they skyrocketed in collector value. The 1991 South African 2 Rand sits in that exact same category of world history frozen in metal. The South African Mint in Pretoria struck this coin with the same precision and pride it had maintained for nearly a century. But nobody at the Mint knew in 1991 that within just 3 years, the entire face of South African coinage would be permanently transformed. That uncertainty, that historical unknowing, is baked right into this coin. What you have with the 1991 2 Rand is not just a coin. It's a snapshot of a nation holding its breath. The apartheid walls were cracking, the world was watching, and somewhere in Pretoria, a mint was still pressing coins with the old symbols, completely unaware those symbols had just days left on South African currency forever. The 1991 South African 2 Rand, minted at the edge of history, carrying the last breath of an old world and the first heartbeat of a new one. And now, we save the most powerful for last. The South African 1993 1 Rand coin, 1 Rand, the smallest denomination of our 3 coins today. But don't let that number fool you, because 1993 might just be the single most important year ever stamped onto South African currency. Let me explain why. 1993 was the year South Africa signed its interim constitution. It was the year Nelson Mandela and F.W. de Klerk jointly received the Nobel Peace Prize. It was the year a nation looked into the abyss of civil war and chose peace instead. The 1993 1 Rand wasn't just minted. It was forged in the fire of one of humanity's greatest political miracles. Now let's talk design, because this coin is stunning in ways people rarely appreciate. The reverse features the springbok, South Africa's most iconic national symbol. The springbok isn't just an animal, it's a declaration of identity. Fast, agile, resilient, and unmistakably South African. Now, the level of detail on this coin's springbok engraving is considered among the finest in South African mint history. The texture of the fur, the curve of the horns, the proud stance, all captured in a coin barely larger than your thumbnail. The obverse carries the old South African coat of arms. And here is the chilling part. This would be among the very last times this emblem appeared on South African coinage. Just 1 year later, in 1994, apartheid officially ended, elections were held, Mandela became president, and the entire visual identity of South African currency was reborn. The 1993 1 Rand is essentially the last coin of the old South Africa, a final curtain call stamped in metal. That makes it not just a coin, it makes it a closing chapter of history that you can hold in your hand. The coin is struck in nickel brass, giving it that warm golden tone that has aged beautifully over the past 3 decades. And 3 decades is exactly the point. This coin is now over 30 years old, entering that sweet spot where collector interest accelerates, mint condition examples become genuinely rare, and numismatic value begins climbing seriously. In the global coin collecting world, a market worth billions of dollars annually, where a single rare coin can sell for millions at auction. Coins tied to landmark historical moments are considered blue-chip collectibles. The 1993 South African 1 Rand checks every single box. Historical significance? Absolutely. Rarity and top condition? Growing every year. Emotional and political weight? Unmatched on the African continent. There's something almost philosophical about this coin. Now 1 Rand, the lowest face value in our collection today, yet carrying the heaviest history. It's a reminder that value isn't always about the number on the surface. Sometimes the real worth is buried in the story, the timing and the moment in history that a coin was born into. The Pretoria Mint struck this coin not knowing the world was about to change forever. Workers showed up, the presses rolled, and the old symbols were stamped one final time, completely unaware they were creating what collectors would one day call a transitional masterpiece. So whether you found this coin in an old drawer, inherited it from a family member, or stumbled across it at a market, hold on to it. Because what looks like a simple 1 Rand piece is actually a golden time machine, carrying you straight back to the most breathtaking turning point in modern African history. The 1993 South African 1 Rand, the last coin of an old world, the quiet herald of a new dawn, and proof that the smallest things sometimes carry the greatest stories. And that's a wrap on all 3 coins. From the 2006 5 Rand, a symbol of democratic pride, to the 1991 2 Rand, struck at the crossroads of revolution, to the 1993 1 Rand, the final heartbeat of apartheid-era coinage. These 3 coins together tell a complete story of a nation's transformation. If you found value in today's exploration, like, share, and let us know in the comments which coin surprised you the most, because history is everywhere. Sometimes it's just hiding in your pocket.